What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to FlixGo. I'm Fan, and today we are diving deep into the world of Mad Max Fury Road to explore the mysterious and terrifying figures of Immortan Joe and the War Boys. The comics provide a lot of backstory. The Mad Max comics and other various materials in the Mad Max expanded universe have given a lot of backstory to Immortan Joe, explaining his origins and rise to power. But in short, Immortan Joe was originally named Colonel Joe Moore, with him being a soldier in oil wars and the water wars after the apocalypse. However, Immortan Joe started a bike gang that he led, terrorizing much of Australia. Joe got into battles when his main force patrol, although his goals changed when he learned about a freshwater aquifer. In an attempt to obtain his water, Joe decided to lead his bike gang on a battle against the owners of the Citadel, hoping to take the location over. The battle eventually went poorly for the bike gang, but after 3 days, Joe rallied the troops and led him to victory. During his rule over the Citadel, Joe began to be treated like a god, with many of his followers claiming that he was immortal. This led to him earning the title Immortan Joe, something that he carried for the rest of his life. Why Immortan Joe wears a mask to breathe? It is more than aesthetic. One of the most recognizable traits of Immortan Joe is that he has to wear a mask to breathe in the Mad Max movies, and here is why. Throughout his time as one of the warlords in the wasteland, Immortan Joe became a fairly old man. Due to the harshness of the environment, Joe's health quickly began to fail, meaning that he needed some assistance in order to live. Thus, Immortan Joe decided to continually wear a respirator in order to breathe clean air. However, to hide the apparatus, he decided to decorate the mask with skeleton teeth. Immortan Joe's wives and why he has 5 wives. As Immortan Joe got older, he realized that his sons were not worthy to carry on his role over the Citadel, with him realizing that he needed to take action. Thus, Joe gathered up the purest women in the Citadel and created a breeding program in an attempt to have a worthy son. These women are named Immortan Joe's 5 wives, with him forcefully being entered into the breeding program. Luckily, Furiosa and Mad Max were able to help the women escape, creating a massive chase that set up the events of Mad Max Fury Road. The War Boys. They loyally followed Joe throughout Furiosa and Mad Max Fury Road. The War Boys are constantly seen working for Immortan Joe. In the franchise, the War Boys are Immortan Joe's servants and soldiers, with their zealous belief in Joe's cause leading them to follow him without question. War Boys are chosen from a young age to follow Immortan Joe, with countless War Boys dying throughout the franchise in an attempt to carry out Immortan Joe causes. Why Immortan Joe's War Boys all look like each other? Immortan Joe's War Boys all have a unique appearance, with them being incredibly white with the exception of their eyes and lips. According to the lore of Mad Max Fury Road, Immortan Joe covers himself with white powder for health reasons, with his War Boys using the white powder in order to appear more like Immortan Joe. They then use black makeup around their eyes to give themselves the appearance of a skeleton. Following the design scheme of Joe's skeleton mask, this appearance is standard for the War Boys, with them being outfitted this way for most of their lives. The known members of the War Boys. Although all kinds of War Boys are seen throughout the Mad Max movies, there are a few specific ones that are named in the 2 films. The leader of the War Boys cult is a character named Rictus Erectus. With him being the youngest son of Immortan Joe, the character Nox is one of the most significant War Boys in the Mad Max Fury Road, with the character getting a good bit of screen time. Imperator Furiosa was a former war boy, with her having reached the high rank of Imperator before leaving the cult. These are the most important war boys, although more could always be introduced in the franchise future. And there you have it, the tale of Immortan Joe and the War Boys. Their story is one of power and control. We hope you enjoyed this exploration of Immortan Joe and the War Boys. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video on FlixGo.